Disclaimer, this is a topic that goes way deep in the depth I'm diving into in this video. This video is not a breakdown of Atlanta gang politics. In this video, my plan is to take an overall look at Lil Tony's life and legacy, commenting on what I feel could lead him into getting involved in street politics, and explaining how I feel Lil Tony is the best example of someone coming from a negative environment, turning his life around in an attempt to save people from the mistakes he himself made. Thanks. I hope you enjoy. Tikai Elijah Key, better known by his stage name, Lil Tony, is a widely influential music artist coming out of the Atlanta drill boom of the COVID years or early 2020s. Him going from drill star gang member to one of hip-hop's most devout Christian figures in little under a year, after he had a brush with someone he would later describe as the devil. This is the story of the shooter turned savior, Lil Tony. Originally born on the west side of Atlanta, in an area known as The Bluff, a young Lil Tony would know financial struggle and gang activity from a pretty early age, with his father seemingly participating in said activities when Tony was younger, if Lil Tony's music is anything to go off of. Due to Lil Tony's father, Tony would wind up moving around Atlanta quite a bit in his childhood, once to the southwest, and then eventually to Fairburn and East Point areas, which in their own respect weren't as peachy and safe as environments go. With all this in mind though, it's safe to say that Tony had a decent upbringing with his parents, as his dad would impart many good lessons onto him when he was young, though not all would stick until later on down the line. In the beginning of Lil Tony's academic career, he'd seemingly be a good student, though this would begin to waver when Tony would hit his mid-teens, him really starting to get into criminal activity around this time. He'd also around this same time become close with a few friends and other Atlanta artists like the future producer Harryock and his past friend, future opposition, Lil Birdie. Them even at one point going over to each other's houses pretty often to stay the night and shit, like true friends. Eventually this would lead to Lil Tony beginning to claim the 220 set, as well as being cool with members from the Birdie Gang and PCF. This would also mark Lil Tony's intro into rap with his 2020 song, Pressure, which sounds like a Lil Baby type track, but with way better lyrics in my humble opinion. Even from this early on track, Tony was showing promise as a great rap artist. A lot of the early years of Lil Tony rapping would be a very big contrast to his later styles, seeing that most, if not all, the music from around this era of 2020 and 2021 would be strictly melodic, him not even really tapping into his deep voice and smooth cadences as of yet. His first real buzz beginning in 2021 with the track Bad Way, which got around 4.9 thousand views on YouTube, but this would pale in comparison to his first ever music video, 2022's Rappin' Shit. Because T-Key in his infinite wisdom would go on to delete and later re-upload most of his early music videos and catalog, I can't tell you specifics date-wise on some of these songs, but the re-upload of Rappin' Shit music video is currently sitting at 305,000 views at the time of this recording, it being one of the first non-auto-tune tracks that Tony ever dropped. Even back then, Lil Tony is one of the most impressive artists when it comes to flows and lyrical content, especially with his strong-ass Atlanta accent. The success of this track will lead Lil Tony to release arguably, in my personal opinion, Lil Tony's first breakout music video. That video being 2022's Baby Drill Flow. This track, like the last, would be a no auto-tune, really good flow Atlanta drill track, and would serve as Minnie's first intro into the new wave of Atlanta artists that was springing up around the end of COVID. Around this time, Tony would also collaborate with his close friends Harryock and Lil Birdie, though due to a later betrayal by Birdie, all their early collaborations have been scrubbed from the internet, with only a few really popular ones surviving, like Gen 5 and a few others. Because I've done a video on Lil Tony in the past, I'ma glaze over a good few of his songs, given that I've covered most and it'd just be redundant. What I will say though, in replacement of that, is Lil Tony might be one of the most talented wordsmiths in the entirety of Atlanta, and yes, I'm counting Kenny Mason and them lyrical motherfuckers too. The way that Lil Tony puts together songs, it's like if a really Atlantanese hood motherfucker was trying to rap poetry at you. The shit for real goes crazy. If you want to see a more in-depth talk on each of the songs and what blew them up, go to my other video in the description and it should sate your interest. Around when Lil Tony was 19 years old, he'd wind up having a daughter, and in that time he'd also begin to slow down a bit streetwise. With that being said, somehow undercover pressure from Birdie and his crew began to mount behind the scenes, and on top of that, 220's opposition, one Lil Meat from Casket Gang, began to diss Lil Tony, even going so far to threaten Lil Tony's daughter. apart. Around this same exact time, Birdie was seen trying to get cool with Lil Meat and Casket gang members, supposedly for clout. This would cause a split between Lil Birdie and Lil Tony, them at one point seemingly being the next duo of Lana Drill. All of that crushed into them being opposition, wanting to kill each other when they see each other. Now I'm unsure on the timeline of this event. I don't know if this is after or before this point, but Lil Tony would wind up getting shot by people allegedly from Lil Meat's CG crew. He would go on to survive the shooting itself, but if we're going off lyrics, him and his PCF friends would end up sliding back. This continuous back and forth street BS would continue through the years, even involving the side quests like Lil Birdie banning Tony from a local convenience store, only for Tony to walk up into it, post on social media, and just stand there. Basic hood activities. Besides the little juvenile shit, Lil Tony's first brush with law enforcement ironically came from him firing airsoft guns or a bead gun of some sort at pedestrians in a drive-by like attack. This might sound bad if you're just reading it, but for real, it's normal kid shit that motherfuckers are doing around the city. It's for real harmless ass shit. This first arrest happening in 2024. Lil Tony was a suspect for an alleged shooting in 2023. They tried to tie that to Tony, but it never ended up following through, thank God. And maybe he was innocent, maybe he wasn't. The world may never know. Come 2025, Lil Tony was seemingly destined to become mainstream. In fact, he would end up getting invited out to LA for a photo shoot for some nepo baby Chinese motherfucker around the mountains of California. Little did he know at the time that this trip would be the moment to change Tiki's life forever. In Lil Tony's Bryce Crawford podcast episode, Lil Tony would go in depth and describe how when he had finished the photo shoot on that mountain, Tiki would ask some of the guys who brought him how they could afford the cars they were in as they were super young and seemingly they were loaded cash-wise. Tony wouldn't know that the main guy, Leafy, was a fucking nepo baby from a Chinese billionaire. Tony would also mention that the mountain had felt off to him all day before this, like gnawing anxiety gripped him when he was up there. They would all laugh and tell Tony that they were in an organization that could make him famous. Basically sounded like some Illuminati pitch shit. On top of all of this, they showed Tony a video of someone getting pegged as a price of entry. At that point, Tony wanted to dip out but had no service and had no way down the mountain. So he asked him to drive down the mountain and said he wanted some McDonald's. They said they were going to take him to a Korean barbecue place and he agreed. Him trying not to sound like he was trying to escape the situation too bad. On the way down those mountains, the car would turn off on a road that Tony didn't recognize on the way up, and they would stop at a house up on the hills. Tony, upon getting out the car, ran to the nearest person he could find, in this case being a postal worker, and begged him to take him down the mountains. From there, Tony dipped out and called an Uber, and from then on, Tony has been a self-professed Christian. This even showing up in his music shifting post this event. While I don't believe in the hocus pocus wizard shit, the way that Tony tells the story on Bryce's podcast, I fully believe him, and it wouldn't be the first time we hear about celebrities doing weird shit. Never forget about the Epstein shit. Also, me and one of my partners looked into the motherfuckers who allegedly did this to Tony, and it comes to an account called LeafyOG0727. This motherfucker happens to be a Chinese billionaire's nepo baby's son, allegedly. So I doubt anything will ever be done to stop these evil motherfuckers. I'm pretty sure the dad owns either a coal mine or he's a banker. I don't know. The information is shaky. All I do know is Leafy OG was trying to get some of that Lil Tony booty, and he probably would have succeeded if Lil Tony wasn't smart enough. Always look out for weird nepo babies. They got enough money to do whatever the fuck they want, whether it be Saudi, Chinese, American, or anybody else. Anybody with hella money, watch out for them. This come to Jesus moment would accumulate with songs like August 10th, 2025's track, Can't Leave My Bible, which should be an ultra vibey, smooth rap track where Tony would mix the drill topics with overall life lessons and praises to God. It might sound like corny Christian music and me describing it, but trust me, it does not come across like that in practice. It sounds fire. All of this Christian arc is still persisting until this current day, as Tony focuses on taking care of his daughter, as well as steadily putting out music and preaching the good word. Honestly, though Tony's become one of the more successful turnarounds I've seen morality-wise and artist-wise, I hope to God he can keep up the success. Seeing as this video is a redo of an old video, I didn't focus on the music as heavily as the updated info. So if y'all want the in-depth music knowledge, go to my old one in the description. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment who y'all trying to see next, and subscribe with the bell to see all my future uploads. As always, I appreciate all y'all's support, and at 2,000 subscribers, I want to do a Q&A live stream. I'll announce it as soon as we reach the number. With all that out the way, peace out. Ciao.
Fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing
my part too.
They're doing their part.
Huh?